Welcome all. It's good to see everyone. And let's start with Fatiha with Aisha. What?
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين آمين.
Okay, very good. So we'll look at what's happening right now with where I am in the editing process, getting it ready for Rowan, the complete editor. I'm working on the alighting places of the Quran, which are the 114 alighting places of the Quran, corresponding to the surahs, the enclosed areas of the Quran. And we'll be looking at the shortest surah, and you'll see, and so there's so much that I've learned from this that I'm still working my way through all of this. So I'll have to be watching, am I saying things the way I understand them correctly, and so I'll just have to keep watching that. But I have shown, we sent out some of the key texts already. And so the big key text when we're looking at Quran and Ibn Arabi is Ibn Arabi speaking about the night and when the beloved comes to see you and you're the beloved's beloved. He said, I myself recite my book to them in their own languages. So that's our first opening to see how Ibn Arabi is saying the Quran should be read. It should be read in your language with Allah being the one who is teaching you. And that when we're doing this, when we're in this relationship, we are reflecting everything I say to you back to me, and I teach you. And then the other text, so in the same way, again, whatever shines radiantly in tajalli to the sight of your insight and your heart, any of the sorts of incoming thoughts and images of matters which are turning to display themselves to you in your insides, they're all from God's side. So this is how we are going to jump into this entire question of what is the Quran? What are these alighting places? What is Ibn Arabi pointing us to? And the theme throughout the Futuhat is going to be the address is commensurate with the capacity of the audience, not with the capacity of the speaker. So these are all of the things that here's paradise. Let's just put it in a little ball. Here's paradise. Whether you see that or don't see that is not up to the ball of paradise or the thing that you're looking at. So beauty is in the eye of the beholder. So when you say this is something special, it's not because it's special, because everything is special. It's because you see it as special. So if you've seen the latest movie by Pixar, this Soul, perhaps the main line there is given by the singer who tells the story. There's the little fish comes up to the older fish and says, where's the ocean? And the big fish says, little brother, you're in the ocean. And he says, no, this is water. I want the ocean. And this is Ibn Arabi's lesson to us. You're in the ocean and you're the one who thinks it's not paradise. You're the one who thinks it's not divine. And so it's not on the side of the divine or on the side of paradise or on the side of beautiful things to say, hey, I'm beautiful. It's for us to say, I have the capacity to see what is divine. So the same way with the Quran. The Quran is not there as a magical document which takes you somewhere. It depends on how you are receiving. So we'll look at that. And here we have, so this is the shortest surah, and our our brother in Yemen is giving me so many numerical mysteries about this one surah, which is the shortest one. And so in Ibn Arabi's way he's speaking about the Quran and the surahs now, in this part from book 19 to book 27, I think, so 2,500 pages maybe. These are all of the surahs. He's going to them as enclosed areas. And so he's seeing these surahs as maps, places that you go there. And when you go to this alighting place, you discover different things. So what he's discovering, so I've worked on this for many years now, but recently I've said, well, let's take the shortest surah, which will be the shortest map, and see if I can understand what Ibn Arabi is saying about this shortest of maps. And so if Omar is here right now, he could recite for us this surah. And I don't think he's here. Salah from Sana'a, are you here? Otherwise, I'll have to.
Yes, I am here.
Salah, if you could read in the Quranic Arabic, and then also perhaps the translation.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم إنا أعطيناك الكوثر فصل لربك وانحر إن شانئك هو الأبتر صدق الله العظيم. Please forgive me, dear Sheikh, I can't see very well, so...
Yeah, I'll go ahead and take that. Thank you very much.
Okay.
The one translation is, indeed, we have granted you the Kawthar, so pray, bless to your cherisher and sacrifice. Lo, verily, your insulter, he is the one with no progeny. So today we will look at two parts of the shortest surah. And Ibn Arabi is calling this a lighting place, the alighting place of the pool. So on Ma'rifah, of an alighting place of the Hawd, the pool, and his secrets, part of the Muhammadi station. So we'll begin to look now at where Ibn Arabi is going to take us in this surah, and I'm seeing it as very much as a map. So he says, over here in this verse, you find this, and then you find that, and then you see this. So he's really directing us throughout this alighting place. So now what I've learned from this, and it's come recently why all of this is happening a certain way, because I thought that Ibn Arabi would look at these 114 surahs, the chapters. I thought he would be looking at them in a kind of a deconstructing way, or he would give us a verse, and then he would give us the meanings of the words, and then the other derived meanings of these words. And then he would give us the commentaries and the understandings and the meaning. So that's in a sense how he does in other parts of the Futuhat. But here he doesn't do that at all. In fact, if you're not sort of clued into understanding that he's going through the surahs one by one, starting with the last one, the 114th, and ending with the first one, Fatiha, because he's saying that the furthermost Imam backpedals. And so that's a kind of a geometrical mystery that he gives us. So we're going backwards from 114, 113, 112, 111, 110, 100, and 108. So now we're on 108. It's the shortest one. And so I thought that what he would be doing is saying, okay, here's a verse, Inna a'tainaka al-Kawthar, and he's going to explain that to us. But it doesn't work that way. And he doesn't actually quote or cite the verse. What he does is he jumps straight in and says, this alighting place is going to be labeled the pool, which is a place where water collects. And then he's going to tell us that when you are in this alighting place and you are roaming about, you'll find certain mysteries. And so we'll look at two of those. And the way this is working then is not verse, explanation, grammatical analysis, semantic analysis. It's not anything like that. It's here's what you find. And so what he's saying without being able to say it, because no one can say it, he's going to the source. He's going flush against the membrane where the light is coming, where all of this is coming. All of the divine emanations are coming. And he's at that membrane and he's receiving it directly. He says, when you will see this and you will see that. And then after that direct flush against the membrane, then there's all the filters. And so now what he sees is what's filtered through language and culture and all of our individual mixtures, are the ways we are. And Ibn Arabi has said elsewhere that what we want to do, what the people that are these seekers, that his family, his people, what they want to do is go to where the Prophet ﷺ was standing while he received the revelation. So come to the place where Muhammad ﷺ was standing, was there, and he received it here. And then go to that place and you will also see it unfiltered in your own language, in the words that you as your individual self understand. And so this is how we're going from a light in a way, and then it gets filtered through words, languages. It gets filtered through documents, texts, works, sacred books, all of that. Those are all filters. And Ibn Arabi is going to be suggesting to us that all of these filters are, in a sense, equal, because they're all filtering what is the divine. So we'll hold on to that as we go. So he's now pushing us straight to the flush against the membrane and says, here's what you see if you come to this place. You'll see this verse in Quran: if they had stood with the Torah and the gospel and what was sent down to them from their Lord, they would have eaten from above them and from below them. And so this is, in a sense, the context is the manna from heaven. So that manna kind of came from heaven. And then below your feet is usually understood as things that you do to work. So you receive your food either as manna from heaven or from your hard work and sweat and working the earth. So that's below your feet. And Ibn Arabi is saying, he's giving us a very different way of understanding this verse. He's saying everything is manna from heaven. Everything is coming down flush against this membrane. And you should receive either from there or from the feet of people who are there. So when he says they could have eaten from beneath their feet, he doesn't mean there, meaning we people down here using our feet, our work to get things. He says, no, their feet refers to the people receiving manna from heaven, receiving from the divine directly. So there is divine instruction that some people get. And then the rest of us, we don't then try to make our own food with our feet. We go to their feet and get what they received as a gift. So they would have eaten from above them, and that is the end result of taqwa. So if Allah says, if you have taqwa, if you are aware of me, then I will teach you. So be aware of God, and God will teach you. So Ibn Arabi is telling us we're not getting this knowledge from our feet working hard. We're getting it as a gift, as a teaching from the divine. and that everyone else who doesn't receive that, if they can't find their way to receive that, they should eat from under their feet and receive from what they have received. So the other verse, if you are aware of God, he will make for you a criterion. And then he said, the Rahman taught humanity the Quran. So there is, so in sort of the typical Islamic understanding is there is gifted knowledge and there's earned knowledge, merited knowledge. And Ibn Arabi says there is no such thing as merited knowledge. There's only gifted knowledge. So gifted, and if you're not personally gifted with that knowledge, you eat from under the feet of the people who are gifted with that knowledge. And these are the people who, when they read the Quran wakes up and stands up. So these are the people who make the book stand up from drowsy reclining. You see the interpretations of the experts lay him down sluggish after he had been standing up. So the experts, the ulama, the scholars, the religious experts, the grammatical experts, they put down the Quran with their activity after the Quran had been standing up and ready to speak to you. So then there comes someone God gives success to, and this one stands him up from his sluggish reclining. That is, you make him clear and transcendent from interpretation and free from being worked over using thinking. Okay. So we'll label this place where you are gifted with knowledge from the divine. We can label that Atainak. We gave you. We provided you. So Ibn Arabi is saying you can't take the word Atainak, we gave you, from this surah, and derive from it meaning. What you do is you go to that place where it was revealed, and God himself will reveal to you the meaning. And then when you wake up or want to speak to someone else, then you say, oh, that's the word Atainak, we gave you. Solid. Okay, so let's keep going here. So that's the gifted part. And then without any kind of division or sectioning, he's now putting in another vision of which is the particular or the individual. And so he's showing that this gift is coming and that the individual is absolutely vital, is absolutely completely vital. And so he's going to then show how that when you're at this site and you see the gift, you also at another site, you see the individual, what it means to be an individual, this one person who is not like anyone else. This is why when Abu Bakr the Truthful rose to this alighting place, now this alighting place means this place where on the map of Sūrah al-Kawthar, if you go here and Allah pushes you flush against the membrane, then you will receive directly. When Abu Bakr got there and asked for a crossing over, which is to see both sides of the river from beginning to end, of a dream he had, the Prophet ﷺ told him to cross it over. So this is, Ibn Arabi is helping us see that when Abu Bakr had a dream and wanted its meaning to be crossed over, to be told that this dream means this, the Prophet ﷺ told him to start. You cross it over first, because its meaning is completely embedded in who he is, who you are. And then when Abu Bakr does interpret, the Prophet then says, some of it hit the mark and some of it missed. So you understood some of it and some of it you didn't understand correctly. But that even though that is the situation, and even for someone like Abu Bakr, still he was the one who was to begin the interpretation of the dream. So now we're looking at back to that pond and the pool and the place where water pools, the place where water is collecting. Learn that with these knowings, when God bestows them on you, the creature, in their true image, and he teaches you what he means by them, so direct divine education, you stay with its core, with this image, in this image. So whatever it comes in, you don't say, oh, I need a better image for that. The image is what it is. And this is likened to the pool. You see, the water is perceived, and the motes, the little particulate matter floating about, are perceived, which are in the interior depth of the pool. So he's having us see a pool, and then the motes are especially strong down at the bottom. They kind of, they filter down to the bottom. The water is confounded, clothed. So labas in Arabic means you're interclothed, which is another way of saying confused, compared to the spring. So a spring, just the water just flowing up like this, and you don't see any motes, you don't see any particles, and you don't see any coloring, reddish or yellow or whatever color it may be. You see the water as red or yellow or another color. This is why Junaid said, when he was asked about the Marifah of the Arif, the one who recognizes everything everywhere, the color of the water is the color of its container. So when the water accepts this coloration, it starts to be in its entity a composition of coloration and color. So you don't just see pure water, you see colored water. But in the manner as it really is, it is something else. You know the water, so we know water has no color. And you know that this color is that of the container, but they are not separated. That becomes the key. So in this pool, we are beginning to see that the vessel, the pool, has motes in it, has particulate matter in it. And that is telling us that it's part of the pool, of the water, to have motes. They go together. And so paradise is here. It's up to me to see that it is paradise. So we have Ilahi now.
Ahmed Badawi, axis of the Sufi way, we will enter your ecstasy. Ahmed Badawi, axis of the Sufi way, we enter your ecstasy. Hayasaki, you of the drink from Qatar. Ya Badawi, Hafazo Badawi, Ya Hasaki, Paradise is right here. Ya Badawi, oh beloved friend, I only long drink your wine and plunge into the essence of your love. Oh beloved friend, I only long drink your wine and plunge into the essence of your love. Hayasaki, you offer drink from Qatar. Ya Badawi, Badawi, Ya Hasaki, paradise is right here. Ya Badawi.
Thank you. So somehow Ibn Arabi is starting with the gift from the divine, and then taking us also to the place where if we are in flush against this place, we will see the value of the individual and the value of the motes in the pool. And I'll just, so quickly, if the old school Christmas lights were in electrical in series, they were serial, they were in series. So you have parallel electricity or connections, and then you have series. Now in a series of, if the Christmas lights are all in series and one of them goes out, they all go out. And so that's a property of series in electricity. And the sort of the more mystical way of saying all of that is to say that each individual soul is a necessary part of the entire string of Christmas lights. And who saves a soul? It is as if one saved the people entirely. So the value of that one little light is that if that one goes out, then all of them go out. And this going out means that the existence of that one light. Now that one light in Ibn Arabi's cosmology is projected onto the world screen and onto the other world screen. So that particular light may be projected for one day and the child lives for one day, or it may be projected for 100 years and the person lives for 100 years. But whatever the amount of time that light is projected onto the earthly plane or projection screen, its soul, its entity, once it's created and comes into existence, never goes out of creation, never goes out of existence. And that is its key, that it is absolutely required, whether it projects for one day in this world or 100 years in this world. And so that Christmas string of lights is a one string of light. It's in series. So, O you people, become aware of your cherisher, the one who created all of you from a single soul. And from her, he created her mate and dispersed from the two many men and women. And each one of them is a bulb in this Christmas light in series, and therefore not one of them can be taken out and removed. They all are needed, all are required. And when I was a kid, I used to play with long numbers, and I would just take big sheets of paper, and with my pencil, I would go do long division until I would get, hundreds of digits. I just loved huge numbers. And so one of the things that as a kid I was thinking about is that with all these huge numbers, how can anyone say, oh, I'm important or I'm necessary if I'm just this one number? And I thought, so that was in the back of my head as I did these long divisions. But Ibn Arabi will tell us that each individual is completely necessary, not for what it's going to do, but for its being, just to be. And so the value is not what it does, but that it is. And so when we see that Allah is looking at the mirror, the image is you, that each image has to be there, has to exist. If you take one out, you are lessening the amount of art that the divine is looking at. And so that cannot be taken out. And the value is not, this person really gives a lot of light to the world. This person's a really nice person. Ibn Arabi says that if you're a friend of Ar-Rahman, then you've got to be careful, because the Arab proverb is, watch out who you befriend, because you will take on their custom or their religion. And Ibn Arabi says, if you want to be a friend of Ar-Rahman, here's what's going to happen. Ar-Rahman takes someone who has done nothing but horrible things and has been an idolater and never thanks God and is just a horrible person. And he's done this. And what does Ar-Rahman do? Ar-Rahman extends this person's life on and on and on. So it's not, it's quite clear that if the goal of this person was to have that person be a good person, and if he's not a good person, well, just cut his life short. Well, that's not the way Ar-Rahman works. So Ibn Arabi says, if you're going to be a friend of Ar-Rahman, you're going to have to be good to everyone, even if they don't acknowledge you or are nice to you or anything. So that's the background for each entity is required, is necessary. And so Ibn Arabi's illustration of that with numbers is when you take a number like 500 or 400 or 939 or some huge big number that I always like to play with, when the one is removed, the number disappears entirely. So if you have the number 593 and you take one out of it, it's no longer 593. It's gone. And so the one can never be removed. The one that is in every entity is necessary, just the way the Christmas lights in series Each one was necessary. And if one was removed, they all go out. So the one is necessary. And then the aleph, if the aleph is taken out, the word disappears entirely. So if the ah sound, if there's any kind of sound that's coming from the chest through the mouth, if that's removed, then the word disappears completely. And so if this single entity, which is the well, the point, the source, is simple, that means not composite, it's simple, it doesn't have pieces, then removal of any of its emanations removes it entirely, in its entirety. And if you preserve any of these emanations, the entirety is preserved. And the same way, if the single soul breath that we read from Sūrah al-Nisa up there, if the single soul breath is simple, one, and not composite, then the removal of any sound or emanation removes the entire word. So the souls come from one soul, and then they make lots of other souls, but they're all connected because they are all one soul. And so any removal of any soul removes all the souls. So the words of God never cease and are never exhausted. So Allah speaks, looks at the mirror, you are the image, and you will never not be. And you can never be removed from the equation. The projections of your images, these images might last a day or last 100 years in this world, but they're in all worlds, they are always there. So he puts these all together, and then, so he's saying that each of these, so the first place that you go to, gift, educated by Allah. God is teaching you himself. And then the other place that you are flush against the membrane, you see why you are an individual, why you are a mote in the pool, and while the pool and the moat are necessary, and that one doesn't want to clear away the moats. So when water is rushing really, really fast, when you're in the white waters and you're just flying and flushing through, you don't see any moats. And so you say, oh, this is wonderful. And then when the water stills, when it comes into a collecting place, suddenly you can begin to see moats, and then moats are beginning to settle on the deep interior of the well. The moats were there while the water was flying around and going in white water, and they're also there, but now visible when they're in the pool. And it's up to us to see, we are containers ourselves, to see that all containers are necessary containers, and all of them are divine. So now we have this ilahi.
Every breath is a path to Allah, each life an open door, beloved. Every breath is a path to Allah, each life an open door. Hi, hi, every soul says yes to the truth. Illallah, hu, Yahoo. Every soul is praising the truth. Allah alone, beloved. The holy friends are past description, their ways are manifold, beloved. The holy friends are past description, their ways are manifold. Hi, hi, they're clear. Dawn is divine unity. Illallah, hu, Yahoo, their green springtime, divine unity. Allah alone, beloved.
Thank you. So when we're at that source, at that place in the membrane, we receive directly, we're taught directly, we're given knowledge and meaning directly. And then we, in a sense, turn around, want to then convey this or speak about this to someone else, and then the filters start coming in. And that's fine. The filters just start coming in. If I want to explain something to you that I've just seen, I come up to you and I say, I've just seen the most magnificent thing. And you say, what was it? And I'll have to now find words that can convey what I saw to you. And if you are someone who already knows a lot about me, you'll know what language I'm speaking, what words I'm using, what images I'm using, and you will be able to communicate, because you'll say, oh, when you say that, I hear that, and these are the same, we're looking at the same thing. And so each of these emanations, these things coming out, are coming out to individual vessels, to each of us individually, and each one is different. Each one filters differently. And so every breath is a path to Allah. Now, when Ibn Arabi sees that, he sees, that, I'll just put X, he just sees that. And then he turns around and writes down in Arabic, every breath is a path to Allah. He just writes that down in the Futuhat, and that's in Arabic, in his handwriting. Whether it's Yunus Emre or someone sees the same thing he saw and writes the same thing or sings the same thing in Ilahi, every breath is a path to Allah. So it's not, and this is what Ibn Arabi keeps telling us, that when you get transmission from these kinds of people, that they're not working from the written document, and they're not even written from what the person said. They go back to the same source that you saw it in, and they filter it and read it in their own way and then express it. So we're seeing that instead of starting from words and filters and languages and then deriving things and studying things and parsing, Ibn Arabi is telling us, go directly to the source. And then you'll see that when I said this, and when Yunus Emre sang that, and someone else said this, and someone else said that, we're all saying the same thing because we're all looking at the same place. And all of these are our filters in our different languages, and could be different religions, different cultures, different times. So this is the pool with the moats. And there's a secret conversation that goes to you and only to you. So we started out with, Ibn Arabi told us about Abu Bakr, was told, you interpret first, and then the Prophet ﷺ, he'll interpret later. But you start because it's an individual first. So this secret conversation is only from who to you, through you, not through another. Based on you, you recognize who, not based on another. So absolutely direct to you who are an individual. Indeed, you are the closest veil, and you are the curtain draped down before who. So that's that filter. So you're the first filter. And that filter then has more filters, language filters, experience filters, cultural filters, all these filters that are coming afterwards. Because you are a curtain and a veil, because you are a filtering device, you can distinguish who from your boundary. So as a filter, I can say, here is who filtered in me uniquely. And so that's the boundary, who is there and who is filtered here. As there are in the pool, which is in the other abode. So that means the Kawthar in the garden, many cups. So there'll be a fountain with many cups to drink from, as many as the numbers of drinkers of the pool. And as the water in the vessel is in the image of the vessel in shape and color, we know for sure that knowledge of God is as many as the measure of your perspective and your preparation and what you are involved with in yourself. So all of this knowledge, when it comes to knowledge and filtered, everyone is different and each knowledge is different, and each one will depend upon your filter, your experiences. And so you are absolutely necessary for this, because you are the only one who carries this knowledge. You are the only one who carries that particular knowledge. And so you're absolutely necessary and cannot be taken away, or their knowledge will be, knowledge will be lessened, made deficient, will vanish. And so therefore your knowledge, whatever it is, each time you have knowledge and each time you are given this, your experience and your particulate matter is absolutely essential. No two will ever come together in a single knowing concerning God from any facet, because no two will ever come together in a single personality. Then no two people are the same. So we've looked at that with gender, with biological sex, body morphology, all of these things. No two people are alike. There is no normal curve. There is no normal curve. There is only individuals, each one different. And no two will be sitting in the same place. No two will have the same biological sex, gender, culture, language. No two will be in the same place. It is just not correct. In fact, inescapably, in two, there will be something that occasions differentiation in order to affirm the entity of each one distinctly. If it were not that way, it would not be correct to call them two. So not one recognizes the true except one's self. You recognize the true by yourself, not by another. And yeah, at some point we could get into that, but it's so fascinating. I went back sort of to my own life, because, you know, it's your own experience that is important. I went back to my own life and I could see that that the hints of this mystery were there throughout my life. So you have here on one side Sri Andal, and she is the poet, the saint who wanted direct connection, union with the divine, and was not at all accepting of any union with creatures, lesser beings, people, men. So she said, I want to be in union with the divine only. And so she has this, that what we then say in Arabic, I would say, is Batul, which is the one who is purely apart, and so there's something about purely apart. And it doesn't necessarily mean virgin, it means purely apart, separated, and so that dedicated, separated, purely apart. And so we see this in Fatima is called Betul. She's called this one who's separated apart. And Fatima also, so this pool, the pond that we're talking about, is separated and purely apart, with its motes, with its particulate matter. So that's how Arabi is telling us that this pond is divine. Don't look for water that has no particulate matter in it. Look for water that has particulate matter, and know that the particulate matter, the motes, are absolutely necessary. They give a quality, an individual and ever different quality, which is necessary for our devotion to this divine vessel. So the divine vessel of Sri Andal, of Virgin Mary, of Fatima, these divine vessels with their motes. And so Ibn Arabi is, in a sense, encouraging us to say that if you already adore something that's granular, you're doing the right thing. If you're only looking for things that are pure and virginal, then you're not looking for granularity and texture. You're missing something. You're missing what is there, because what is there is this granularity. And as I look at all the rectangles of everyone's beautiful faces, this is a very granular group. There is no question that granularity is what we're all about. Each one is so very different. There's no one trying to be like anyone else. And everyone is saying, here I am, take me as I am. And so this granularity and texture that's what it's all about. So if we could have, Klaus, if you could go ahead and.
Betul. And God speaks the truth. And who is the guide to the way? The alighting places of the pool and his mysteries are step levels of knowing and his lights. He is part of the knowing which does not cease. His clear limpidity mixed in with mudding motes. The pool's location is stamped nature, which is his motes and particles, catching up to the interior depth with his clots and clumps.
So this is the affirmation and adoration of differences and grains and granularity and textures and individuality. Okay. So Baki.
This nightingale, stranger to space and time, I flow here from the garden of purest science. That abode is that pleaseth friend, O divine face, gazing, gazing. This my song, because so beautiful, as longing grows deeper and deeper. The earth is singing in the constant, nothing surpasses this passionate love. This bold lover questions the source of being, why the soul flies into the veils of creation. Though the light of the application can flash from heart, Lazar to Lazar. Only Allah, being beyond being, shining, shining, glow you shining. This dervish is now complete, nothing surpasses this passionate love. Nothing surpasses this passionate love.
Thank you. So why does the soul fly into the veils of creation? Why can't we just stay in the membrane, flush against that picture, flush against that image coming at us, flush against the divine? And why do we fly into these filters? Why do we fly into individuality and difference and filters and motes and particulate matter and granularity? And so the answer from our perspective might be difficult to find. From the divine perspective, it's easy to see. It's the flashing from Allah's heart to Allah's heart. It's wanting to see all these particulars, all of these individuals, all of these different experiences, and wanting to see that means that each one is necessary. Each one is necessary. We have one more slide, which we'll work on next week, inshallah. I think we could probably, I thought I had so few slides, it would be such a short one, but it just kept going. So there you go. So alhamdulillah, thank you very much. It's wonderful to see everyone.
The first question, Shuaib, is why just being has to be there? Still not clear. Maybe it was clear by now, but this was earlier.
Yeah. So the brave soul is, so when you are a brave soul and you're speaking directly to the divine, so you say, why? why am I having to be in this body? Why can't I be in a better body? Why am I in this life when things could be better? Why do I love this person and nothing is happening? Why does all of these things are here? What's going on? And why do we have languages? Why can't we all speak the same language and be able to communicate with each other better? And the answer is each individual, each grain, all this granularity is what is part of the divine picture, the divine picture, to see all of these things. So if you think about, we were just talking, my mother loves dramas and putting on dramas and things like that as an English teacher. And one of the things that was coming clear is that when you have a drama, when you have a play that you're giving, you never see the stage manager, except in our town, I guess. You never see the stage manager. So you say, well, we could maybe get rid of the stage manager. We never see him. And then poof, everything disappears. You say, what about this person over here? Is that necessary to have this person? And you begin to realize that to have this play, whether someone's seen or not seen, whether they're the star actor or they're the backup singers, everyone is required to make this play happen. So that's, in a way, Ibn Arabi always goes back to the shadow play, as the shadow play is the metaphor for our life, and that the way to watch the shadow play with joy is to realize that there is a reason why this play is taking place. It's teaching us, and we can't be taught unless we see it. We go through it, and we're able to interact with all of these beings, and all of these beings are absolutely necessary. None can be removed.
I understand about the motes being individual, but you said something near the beginning about motes and paradise. Did you equate them? What is the relationship?
So the title that Ibn Arabi gives this alighting place is the pool, or the pond, or water collecting area. And it's also Kawthar in Arabic is the multiplicity, the abundance, and it's also the pool, that the fountain that is in paradise. And what Ibn Arabi is saying, by not saying that this alighting place is called Kawthar, but it's called Haud, it's called pool, another word, he's trying to help us see that the pool that we see, the pool which are the vessels today, which we are, and the pool which is the fountain of abundance in the hereafter, in the garden, that paradise is right here. This pool with its moats is what we want, and it's already been presented to us. And then if we want to use the movie Soul, this is the ocean. Don't just think it's just the water. It is the ocean. It is the pool. And the pool is that blessed vessel, which is Betul, which doesn't mean virgin, meaning I don't have any motes in me. It means I have motes in me, and it is purely dedicated to the divine.
Should we go to the pool and take the gifted knowledge instead of learning from a teacher?
Yeah, so, well, if the teacher got it from gift, then you're the person who is receiving from their feet. So he's saying that you receive the manna from heaven. So Allah teaches you directly. And if I'm someone who doesn't necessarily always get that direct knowledge, then I go to the person who is receiving that direct knowledge, and I eat from their feet. I eat from below their feet, and I take the knowledge that they have received as a gift. But in no case, Ibn Arabi is saying, do we take knowledge from our intellects or from our own efforts? And so that's that you don't look at a verse from Quran or a verse from a sacred text or any poem or anything like that and start to derive meanings from it, to kind of work it and parse it and analyze it. That's not the way it goes. The way to receive is to receive from where it came from. And then when you're receiving from where it comes from, then Ibn Arabi is saying that's why we all speak the same language. We never disagree. He says, when you look at all the prophets and the messengers and the friends, they're all saying the same thing because they're all drawing from that one source. So it's not like here's a sentence which gets parsed the same way by all the friends, the awliya. No, it's all of the awliya are going to the source and saying, in my language, if I sing this, this is how I say it. If I recite Quran, this is how I say it. If I tell you this in the Tirupavari with Sri Andal, this is how I say it.
There's some confusion as to the two different spellings and meanings of mote, M-O-A-T or M-O-T-E. Am I right in concluding that both are relevant?
Oh, now that's very interesting because that, yeah, in English, well, for this, that's an Ibn Arabi statement right there. Because moat is the thing okay, so yeah, a moat, the thing that you have to cross over with the bridge, so that you have to cross over the granularity of life, which is the moat, which is, in a sense, protecting the treasure, and that you cross it with the bridge. So yes, I think MOAT works beautifully there as well. I've been thinking MOTES, particulate matter, but you can do an Akbarian interpretation and get that one also. Very good.
How do we find the practice that best helps us recognize the divine in each mote?
Yeah, well, that is the grace of the divine, that the divine brings you to your teacher, to your practice, to your place, to the path. And we realize that as being such a valuable thing. So Ibn Arabi has a whole chapter on, before you find this, all of these things, you can do the following things. You can fast and pray and stay up at night and do all these different things to prepare yourself, because the key is your preparation. And so I have to be prepared to see. So if I am, if something is coming at me and it turns out to be, it's the most wonderful thing in the whole world, and yet if I'm not prepared to see it, prepared or prepped to see it, then it goes unnoticed by me. So the preparation, so that's the focus then is on me. I don't have to say, oh God, make the world better so that it's nicer and more beautiful, in which case then I'll appreciate it. No, it's that, oh, the world as it is as it is. The place I work with is on myself.
Shuaib, there are several requests to be on the mailing list for the PDFs.
Perfect. Yeah, and I always wonder, yeah, so I have this chat recorded, inshallah, so I'll go ahead and put your email there if you want anything, the PDFs or anything like that. Email onto the chat, and inshallah, I'll find it when the document is saved. Good.
The motes are like the imperfections, as when he says it is from the perfection of creation that there is imperfection in it.
Yeah, so the perfection and imperfection. So Ibn Arabi says at one point, he says, there is those, well, he said, even the greatest among us neglect this or forget this. So that's a nice, helpful way of telling us that when we complain that the world is not good enough, or I'm not good enough, I'm lacking something, Ibn Arabi says, even the greatest ones among us in this family, they also make this mistake or they neglect this. The world was not created for me to say that it should be this way. So my saying perfect and imperfect is all based on, well, I want this to be this way, and if it's not, then it's imperfect. And Ibn Arabi says, but if you see that the world was created by the one who created it and created for his, her, its needs and desires and wants, then the whole thing switches. So the world that presents itself to me right now is the world that Allah wants to have. And so it is perfect. And then it's up to me then to say, well, if I don't like it, that's some part of me saying, I want to be God and I want it to be my way. And so submission is to say, the world, if it were my way, there would be less jerks, there would be less stupid people, all these kinds of things, but it would not be perfect. And so I have to, submission is saying that, thank God I'm not in charge of the world, because I can't tell what the best world is. And so I hand this over to Allah and says, you know what's best. And so whatever is happening is what's best. And so then I train myself to receive the world as it is. So.
Similar question to before. From your perspective, how does one prepare oneself to receive divine knowledge, go to the river and drink?
So this is, of course, a lifelong thing, but what has been striking me in the last month or two when I began to really dive into this part of the Futuhat from book 19 to 27, what's so clear is that I'm so used to, and in a part, Ibn Arabi does do this in the rest of the Futuhat. You take a word and you study it, and you study the grammar, and you study the lexicons and you say, this is, what's going on here. But Ibn Arabi is saying that actually, hint, hint, that's not the way that you really want to do it. You want to go directly to the source. You want Allah to teach you directly. So how many times does he say and cite the verse, be aware of God and God will teach you? That's almost every fourth page has that verse. He's telling us, for me, I said it's a hint because I'm pretty dense, but he's really telling us clearly that the way you learn these things is that you open your heart, you empty it of all things, open to what is divine. And so there's the emptying of the heart, which means that I remove I remove the things that won't help me see. And so that's, in a sense, kind of the lower self or the arrogance, the ego, wanting to be boss, or all of these things. I need to remove that kind of thing so that my heart is then open to be able to receive whatever's coming. And if I say, I only receive things that are in Arabic or are Islamic or are Hindu or are Buddhist or whatever, then that heart is not open. So this is, so that's what's the way, and I'm not even going to be able to say all of this because I'm still working with it. In a way, it's saying, so it doesn't matter whether you say, I'm only going to look at something from this religion or this language or in this time or in this culture. It's still a closing. And it doesn't mean that that Hindu scripture or that Buddhist scripture or that Islamic scripture isn't right or good or true. It just means that it is a filter. And as long as you're working in the filter instead of through the source, then you're not seeing what it is. And the moment you go to the source, you then come back and say, oh, this filter called the Quran, how beautiful, how helpful, but I can't go from there to the source. And that's the same way, because it's a miraculous document, but it's not a magical document. So there are magical words. But there is no document which says, kul ja sam, open sesame. There's no open sesame text, not the Quran, not the Tirupave, the Vedas, anything. There is no text, or there's no poetry, or there's no song which is open sesame, magically takes you there. And all of them, when you've gone there, you realize that all of them are equally able to be expressed as filters, but none of them take me from there to there. That's magical, or magical thinking. And so our reverence and love of the Quran is not because it's magical and it's a better book than other books or anything like that and takes me to where I'm supposed to go. No, they're all filters. Its value and the reverence we have for it is something different. It's something else. It's not about that source. And that's why when we go asleep and Allah wakes us up and says, I will lead you through the Quran or any other of my books and tell you what I meant by this verse and that verse in your language.
The image that comes through my mind is crushing the grapes to make wine. We drink the wine of love from our lineage. Sheikh Musafer Ashki, the wine pourer.
Yeah. And then when you shake an old wine up and all the silt comes up, you got to be careful. But this is the process then, that these filters are necessary. We don't just get something directly. It comes through this earth. It comes through grapes. It comes through, standing on the grapes. It comes through all of these things. And that is part of the beauty. And if we try to take that away, we remove the one from the number, it disappears. We remove the ah sound, the breath sound, the word disappears.
How Batul, Mother Mary, and Fatima, Rahmatullah Alayhi, are sharing Kawthar. Mother Mary and Fatima, Rahmatullah Alayhi, are leaders of the women of paradise. Does that have something with it? Does that have to something with it?
Yeah, because when speaking about, in the Islamic tradition about the Kawthar, often is seen as Fatima, and also on the bridge of life. When we're crossing the bridge to go to the garden, we're told, stand back, everyone. Fatima, the mother of Hassan and Hussein, is going to cross. So she's, in a sense, the one who leads us through along this bridge into paradise. And so she is then the imam, she is the leader.
Alhamdulillah, surrender and acceptance of the world as it is.
Yeah, yeah, that's it. And you know, we don't want, there isn't a better world, there isn't a more paradisical world. It's all right here. Yeah, that's the beauty.
Why not immersion rather than submission?
In a sense, for me, I see the images are very similar. When you dive into the ocean, you don't say, "Oh, I think I'm not going to dive anymore. I'll just whoop, flop back out." You don't really flop back out. You are immersed. So, in a sense, that's the submission. And see, that's again with filters. If I'm speaking to someone who I know has a filter which has been, in a sense, damaged by hearing words like submission, which sound like, bosses and men and father figures telling me don't do this and submit to that. If that person has that filter, then for me, I better find a better image to describe what I'm seeing. So this tells us the individuals, it's what creates the beauty. It also creates the challenge as we communicate with each other. We need to find out what filters does the other person have? How can I convey what I'm speaking about? And people have a right to their filters. So if I'm speaking to Muslims, they have a right to hear me give shahada, for instance, so that they know, okay, what's coming from him is from a fellow Muslim. And everyone has a right for their filters to be respected.
Can you say a little more about individuality and acceptance of self and others? These days, there's a lot more emphasis on groups and the dangers of narcissism. I've been talking with my son about individual and group think and things like that. And it turns out that he's very much like me, very strong individual, and do not want to be sort of group think. And I stay away from, I don't like, or have never liked as a teenager onwards, you go to a sports event, for instance, and everyone is sort of all having this group think. And where's the individual in that? For what I can see is that actually this part of that, my part of that personality is very much what Ibn Arabi wants to see us have, that you are individual, you have an individual relationship to the divine. And this isn't one, when you get caught up in things, you can get caught up in marching in a parade, patriotism, all of these kinds of things, woo-woo, that we're all, you feel the power of the group. But really, what's so very beautiful is when you see individuals who are in a group, and the individuals are always there. There's no effacing of who they are. So that's kind of another story, and it's a beautiful place to go. Yeah. Can you say what to do about the scholars, the interpreters?
Well, see that. So there is the way of scholarship. So there, if you look at scientists and scholars, there often you will find some kind of arrogance that I'm going to get this knowledge, I'm going to manhandle it, and I'm going to understand what's happening there. And so they say, don't bother me, God, don't bother me, anyone else. I'm going to use my intellect and my dictionaries or my formulas, and I'm going to crack the code, and I'm going to figure out what's going on. And that is certainly that's what Ibn Arabi is always warning us against, about that the intellect wants to constrain and wants to do it by itself. And Ibn Arabi says the way that if you want to understand Quran, or really or another person or a speech, is that you empty your heart and you open your heart. Then you understand. So if I want to listen to someone, my heart has to be open. I can't come in there with arrogance and say this, do that, and it just doesn't work that way. So he's telling us that preparation is then absolutely essential.
How can one open the heart to receive divine knowledge? The perfect follow-up question. You mentioned that we need to be the heart from arrogance, fear, to be the boss. How do we do that and purify the heart?
yeah, so these are the many techniques or teachings of sacred traditions and mystical path, and that is, what does it take to open the heart? And all of the, since universal religions are always talking about telling us charity, and that's, if you just look at charity as one, to open up the heart and say, this person's that is not a zero-sum game. If I give to this person, I lose something. No, giving is an increase. It's seeing the other world, that whatever I've given is actually is growing in the other world. And so remember, we said that Arabi tells us when we die, we see the bridge, and the bridge we know immediately is the bridge of our design. We created this bridge. It's the bridge of our life. And so those people who are able to see that on the bridge in their life, they die before they die, they awake from the dream. When they see that what little thing they've done has a great, beautiful result in the next world, they live a life, in a sense, seeing both dimensions at the same time. So most people will see only this, you gave this, you were this much charitable, you were that generous, you said this nasty word, you said this good word. The person who can see the rest of it, sees what the trueness of it, will begin to see what is there. And they will, and Ibn Arabi talks about journaling. That is, at the end of the day, you go back and you look at this part of your life and you say, what are the consequences of everything I've done? And if it was a nasty word I gave, how can I change that into something beautiful? How can I fix that? By covering it up, by restitution, all of what can I do about that? And if it was a good thing, can I see how good that was and how beautiful it will be when I die? And I see that, and it will come to me like a beautiful form, a beautiful human being will be coming towards me, and I'll say, that was my good deed. So.
Good. Kasim would like to ask a question.
Mm-hmm.
Please.
Assalamu alaikum, Dr. Eric. It's a pleasure to be here and absolutely honored to attend this session, because I've been following you for last couple of months. I've been going through all your videos on YouTube. So thank you very much for sharing this knowledge with us. I just have a question related to what we discussed today. The names of God, they are infinite. There are 99 names in Quran, but you mentioned in some of the other talks that they're infinite. Mm-hmm. But the filters or the sources that observe them, they are not infinite, but selected or accounted. Is this correct understanding? Or does the human have the capacity to reflect all of the names with all their, knowledge, whatever they carry within them? That's my question, please.
Right. Yeah. So Ibn Arabi often, this is something I've had to learn as I go. When he says the names, he means the divine names, the most beautiful divine names. And he says that these divine names are all all manifesting or emanating or coming out in us. And because the Adam Eve, that lump of clay made out of earth, that's the one that when breathed into is going to be the Khalifa. And the Khalifa is the one from behind whom Allah acts. And so the specialness of humanity is that all of the names can be manifest on this thing called humanity, on this earth clay clump called humanity. And that none of the other beings had that given to them. So, and so each one of these manifestations then is our entities, and they are therefore the words of God, the kalimat Allah. And all of these words of God, as we know, you and me, none of us will ever disappear or cease to be, because the words of God never end. So all the pens are oceans and ink and all of that imagery, that means that we will never end, and there will never be an end of these entities that you and I are. And we are there, and what's special, the cosmos was in existence for a long time until Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, the human being came out. This last being was the being which is earth-based And because it's earth-based, it automatically receives the imaging of the divine. And if something is fire-based or light-based, it doesn't necessarily automatically receive the divine imaging. But we are, the best Kodak film because we receive each image, and no matter who I am, good or bad, nice or stupid or whatever I am, I'm actually receiving all of these images that are coming at me. And so humanity then is one, because it's like the Christmas lights, each one is there and each one is necessary and each one is in series, and therefore all of them are important and necessary, and each of them are receiving divine names every moment, whether we realize it or not.
Then it's still like that.
Can you increase your speaker?
Yeah.
Batul, can you increase your speaker so we can hear you better?
Yeah, a little bit louder, yeah.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, a little better.
Okay, all right. So if we look at the majesty of God, Allah, right? Even if you look at all the creations, whatever is being created, it is still quantified. So from that perspective, the observer is still within the quantified field, although it's able to, so it's, the earth, for example, it's a quantified object. The angels, they are quantified objects. So the reflection is still on a quantified object rather than being an infinite. Although the quantified object has the capacity to reflect, but at the end of the day, the object is still quantified. Is that correct?
Okay, yeah, so in a sense, you're looking at the idea of the infinite and then the finite. And so the finite, so what the reason that each finite grain and granularity is important is because they are, if you take one away, you're even one less from infinity. You're even one less from, the big number you want to see. So that's to that extent, but also we need to see this entire humanity as this loop that we looked at, the loop that has the one visible, invisible, visible, invisible, and the light of Muhammad that's invisible then becomes visible during the life of Muhammad ﷺ, becomes invisible again, and then on the last day becomes visible. When you see that loop, that is a loop that has contained the infinite. And so this is one of the mystic, sort of mystical mathematics, is that how can something that seems finite contain something that seems infinite? And we, in a sense, we kind of give up on the math of that and we just sing songs about it. This vessel contained the infinite. How did Mary, Virgin Mary, how did Mary contain the Word of God, the Spirit of God? Who knows? We can only sing about that. But Ibn Arabi is saying this is the culmination, means that all of that is there. And so the infinite is not wishing for more numbers in order to be complete. It is complete, and that's Kamal. And this Kamal means that is complete. And what is Kamal is the light of Muhammad, is Muhammad ﷺ, is all of humanity as a whole is complete. Yeah, that's beautiful. Yeah, we'll go into that more.
What was the Tamil word on the screen with Batul?
Oh, yes. That's Andal, and that's from South India, Tamil. I studied a lot studied in other things in South India, in Madras back in the day, and I studied Tirupave, and I studied the Sri Bhashya, which was studying it in Tamil and Sanskrit together, and it's called Mana Pravala, which is you have a necklace with a pearl and a coral and a pearl and a coral and a pearl. And so you have one language and another language. And they use the same word in Kerala on the other coast for Arabic and Malayalam. So Malayalam and Arabic are seen this way. And then Ibn Arabi uses the word nizam, which also has the connotation of a pearl necklace that's separated by things. So the separation of grains. So what he's telling us is that the necklace is one. You need to have the separations in order to see the pearls. And so the imagery is incredibly vast, it's beautifully vast.
We're given a magical key of La ilaha illallah, which takes us to the source and the present moment.
Mhm. Yeah, and so one way to look is the difference between miraculous and magical. See, Ibn Arabi says there are magical words. And so there are sort of words that, and he doesn't talk too much about it because he has to hide them from people who would use black magic and things like that. And so words can be very powerful and can have all these effects. And he doesn't want to give his book to go into the hands of someone it doesn't belong to and sees black magic and things like that. But for the seeker, all of these words are magical, miraculous words, and every path is a breath, and every breath is a path, and everyone is going to where it needs to go. Yeah.
Will you kindly connect Kawthar with Tasneem?
Yeah, I don't have anything on that right now. I want to look into that later, if that's okay.
When we look at the ocean, the water's green. When I look further, the nearest water, the color is blue. And when I touch the water, it is colorless. How can we see the truth immediately?
Well, that's all of these truths are coming at us all the time. And if you're lucky enough to be in the Maldives where they have atolls, you can see so easily right at the shore, completely clear. And then a little bit out, green because it's this deep. And then there's the reef. And then after the reef, it's, dark blue. And then when you go out farther, it's black. And so it helps you try to begin to see. So what is its color? And then you realize the vessel and how it is what's telling this color. And all of it is the ocean. You can't say, oh, that's something else. It's all of the ocean. And Ibn Arabi has his experience in Granada of seeing the Sierra Nevada, seeing the snow up there. And he says, when you're far away, the mountain looks black. And when you get closer, you realize that there's white snow on top. And so what is the color? Is it black? Is it white? And so the answer is yes.
Pool is the alighting place where to receive gifts. Drinking from al-Kawthar doesn't mean to meditate on each of 114 surahs, thinking of the source with open heart.
Yeah, so Ibn Arabi says that what Bayezid Bistami did was that he did not die before he had manifested the entire Quran. And what that word means is that you go to the place where each verse was revealed. And so this is Ibn Arabi's telling us that there's one thing, you don't go from the text to the truth, you go from truth to text. And so go to the place where the truth was revealed and see what text came after that, what verse came from that. And now you understand that verse as it came from the true, which is completely different from starting from the verse and trying to get to the true. So you start from the true and you go to the verse. And so, and then there are the hadith that the person who has done that has put the Quran in between their shoulder blades, has ingested nabuwat, has ingested prophecy. It's like the true dream, because you have gone to the place where that direct communication takes place. And that's the place where in the third part of the night, when Allah comes down and says, the night is mine and I will teach you in your language. And so that's the specialness of the third part of the night. And so we look for the divine who is approaching us and saying, let me tell you what I meant by this verse and that verse in any of his books.
How can we stay in a state of preparation, empty ourselves when we're exposed to so much information in our daily life?
Yeah, that's that. And this is even a stronger issue in the last, let's say, 20 years or 50 years or something like that. Because when you think about it, if I see, someone crash, a car crash, or someone bump into each other, or get hurt or something, then I have an immediate reaction to it. My whole body reacts to it. But if I see someone on the other part of the world having the same situation and there's nothing I can do about it, and so my body wants to do something, but the person's on the other side of the world. So we have really gotten into a situation where it's very difficult to have the quietness and stillness that we need. See, the water, when it's rushing, still has the motes, but we don't see them until the water stills. And so we want to find that still place where the water pools. And when the water pools, then we see the motes and we see the beauty of the individual things. And that's not the same as being deluged with water and not being able to know what the heck I'm supposed to do. So stillness. And Ibn Arabi talks about the three kinds of people. Some go out into the wilds to be alone. Some, when the city is going this way, they move this way. Or they put the curtains down in their house and they stay there to be alone with the divine. And that desire to be alone is to be still enough to be able to hear the divine.
Well, there are lots of appreciative comments here. What a beautiful way to start the year. So grateful to you and all the beautiful friends gathering here, wherever we might be physically. Yep. Lovely, profound, thank you. Just sing.
And granular New Year.
From what I know, Tasneem is the stream that flows from the Kawthar.
Okay, beautiful. Okay, let me follow up with that. Beautiful. Yes. Oh, that's nice. That's nice. Good. So there's the streams that flow, and then we have the 4 rivers of paradise that come down here. And Muzaffar Effendi, he used to say that these 4 rivers that flow from paradise are one flowing from here, one flowing from here, one flowing here, one flowing from here. When you cry, like, in wild, grief and love and all of these things, you just start flowing the river. And so when you are crying that way, crying from love, then these 4 rivers from the other world are flowing through you right now. Oh, that's beautiful, that Tasneem. Let me follow up on that. I'll study that and look for that. Good.